Okay, now we're going to add some complexity to our game. We are going to now bring in the alien ship, the enemy ship. So first of all, we have to go to our images section. And from the images section, what you could do, you could bring in the alien ship right to the stage and it will create an instance of it. And notice that's locked, and that's okay because what we're going to do now is program it from, it automatically creates an actor when you do that. And notice here's our alien ship there. So what we want to do is double click on that one and let's give it a name. Instead of calling it actor 1, let's call it alien for now. You could always change it afterwards. I'm just going to go ahead and manually, I'm going to hold the shift key down here and manually just reduce the size of that. We can adjust the size of that later, but we've got an alien on the screen now. Okay, so again, let's click on this to make sure that we are on the prototype, and notice that's the prototype of the alien ship. Okay, so the first thing we want to do then is to bring in a collide behavior. So once you do that, you bring that in, and you want it to bounce when colliding with actor type. That's fine. And you want to bring it down to actor with tag, not with actor tag. We're going to do it with the tag because we had already set up our wall tag. So we want to make sure that whenever it's colliding with any of our walls, it's going to bounce. Okay? If you were to actually run this, okay, nothing's going to happen. I mean, your ship still fires and everything, but the alien is not moving at this point. Anyway, for game, we are going to want to create an attribute for in the initial game project for the game here. So it happens here actually. So what we do is we click here and we want it to be an integer, and this new attribute we are going to call, and an attribute is a variable in computer science term, and so we're going to call it move direction. Okay, and we're going to set it to 1 at this point. So when the game starts, this has the value of 1. Move direction has the value of 1. If we go back to now the prototype, let me hit the enter key here, make sure it takes. If we go back to the alien prototype, we can now create a rule. Okay, so when we bring in this rule, what we want to do, we can actually type in here, or you can bring in the attributes condition, and you could drag that, either drag it in like so, where you get an if condition. So if, okay, and then we want to say if the game attribute, you can either type that in, or you can say here on attributes, if move direction, and it types that in, so that puts that in perfectly for you. So that's probably the easiest way to do it. So the game level attribute move direction that we created, it was set to 1, remember? So if we're saying if that's equal to 1, okay, then we want something to happen here. So what do we want to happen? We want to bring in, let's go back to our behavior tab here. We want to make it so that the alien moves. So right when the game starts, we want the alien to move, and let's put in the direction. Yeah, going to the right is where we want it, so that's fine. We can, let's say, play around with the speed here. So let's, make it 200. Hit OK, and let's test this out here. Okay, so there you go. But notice it bounces because it doesn't know what else to do, because it doesn't say, we don't have a rule that says when it gets to the wall, go to the left. Right now we just have it going to the right. Okay, so that's that. Now, what we also need is an otherwise statement here. So else, anything else. So if, if move direction is equal in 1, we want it to go to the right. If its move direction is any other value, then we want it to move to the left. Okay, so I'm just going to decrease this here and copy that down. Okay, I think using your Alt or Option key. And then we're going to make it go the opposite direction, which I think is about 180 degrees. Okay, but if we play that now, let's see what happens. Is anything going to happen differently? No. Okay, now, why is that? Well, we still haven't changed this value, the variable. We have to create a rule that's going to change that variable. Remember, in this program, variables are called attributes. Okay, so let's create a new rule. Come up here, plus sign, create a new rule here. We're still in the prototype of the alien. And in this case, this rule is going to say when a particular actor receives an event. Okay, so when all the following. So let's take a look at what happens here. So when bring in the collision here. When actor overlaps or collides with, again, we want to bring in this whole actor of tag, not type, but of tag walls. What do we want to do? Well, this is what we want to do. We want to basically do the same type of thing we did above. Okay, we want to change the attribute, however, this time. Okay, change attribute. Here we go. That's under actions. So we want to change the attribute here. So what attribute are we changing? So we're saying we want the attribute of the game move direction. That's going to come in here. That's the attribute we want to change. That's the set. Then we want to move that one, however. We want to change it, oops, too many times, and to the opposite value. Okay? So anything, sorry, -1. All right, so we're basically saying take whatever the value which is of game direction, which is game move direction, which is 1 when the game begins. And when the actor when the spaceship collides with the wall, we want to change it to the opposite of 1, which would be -1. So we multiply it by -1, okay, to change that value. And so remember now, back up here, what we're saying is if move that direction is 1, we want it to move in one direction, but if it's anything else, we want it to move in the opposite direction. Okay, so let's see how we do on this. Let's see how that works. Okay, now it bounces back and forth, back and forth. So we got that working. Okay. All right, so I'll stop here for now, and I'll see you in the next video with the next steps.